Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. By the end of August, the Canyon County Mosquito Abatement District had found West Nile virus in 14 spots around that county. The virus, which is carried by mosquitoes, is a constant threat every year here in Idaho, and it can be deadly. In fact, we saw the first death this year reported in Twin Falls County on August 15th. Jim Lunders is the director of the Canyon County District, and he says they've tested 2,400 mosquito pools so far this season, and he is asking for your help to bring that number down. So he's joining us now to talk a little bit more about this. Jim, really nice to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jim, how bad is the problem this year?
Well, we're seeing, I would guess, if you can call it an average West Nile virus season. It started a little early, but thankfully the temperatures, we haven't seen a lot of those really high temperatures that really drive virus production.
And as I mentioned, you tested 2,400 mosquito pools. So what have you found so far with that testing?
So as of this morning, we're up to 2,900 pools we've tested, and we've had 62 positives. So it's been an active year, and it's really been low levels of virus kind of spread all over the county for us.
So can you talk to us about the testing? Because we hear every year about the testing, but how is it actually done?
So what we do is we use two different main types of traps. The one is baited with dry ice, which is CO2. So that's one of the ways mosquitoes find you is by when you breathe out, you emit CO2. So the mosquitoes are attracted to those traps. And we bring those traps back to the lab. The mosquitoes are ID'd, and then we put them in pools of up to 50 mosquitoes of the same species from the same trap site, and they're tested using PCR in our district lab.
Okay, you just mentioned dry ice traps. What are those? How do they work?
So basically, it has a container that holds the dry ice above a fan, which has a net below it. So the mosquitoes come to the dry ice. They're attracted to the CO2 that's being emitted, and then they're sucked into the net, and then we can bring them back to the lab and ID them and test them.
Okay, so people shouldn't be getting dry ice traps themselves and doing this because you're doing this so you can actually test certain areas to see if there's West Nile.
Correct. They don't catch enough mosquitoes to be effective as a control method. In fact, if you were sitting there next to the trap, the mosquitoes that are attracted to the trap are more attracted to the heat that you let off and such. So if you had a trap next to you, you would actually get bitten more than if there wasn't one there.
So you'd be the trap, basically.
Correct.
Okay. So how do you decide where to put the traps?
So we early on, we kind of spread them all over the county in areas that we're likely to see West Nile or where people are likely to be, where we'd want to know. So the traps are primarily hung in trees, and that's the main reason for that is the mosquitoes that transmit West Nile virus. West Nile virus is actually a bird disease, so they're picking this virus. The mosquitoes are picking it up from birds they're feeding on. So areas with a lot of trees are usually best for setting the traps as far as finding the mosquitoes that are carrying West Nile virus.
Do you ever put these traps on private property or is it just all public property?
We set them on both public and private. So there isn't a public land everywhere that we need to do surveillance. So we set them. So we work with landowners that allow us to put traps on their property.
So there is no way that you can test everywhere. I mean, Canyon County is big. So does that mean that the problem could potentially be more widespread every year than you can actually measure?
Correct. So that's why we often we try not to, and we try to remind the public to not focus on that this individual trap site that we found a positive there, because it's very likely the areas we're not trapping would have positives as well.
Hmm.
The surveillance is really a way that we can get an idea of how much virus is circulating in the whole area, not just that one individual trap site. Um, and especially like this year, where we're seeing it spread through low levels of virus in lots of traps. That's a pretty good indicator that we have low levels of virus throughout the county. Um, so, but there are other times when we might see the virus focused in one or two traps, and then we know that the virus is more isolated. So every year's different, and we just have to look at the data and make the control decisions based on that.
So I want to talk next about solutions because you have said that you need help from the public to limit the spread of the virus. So what are some easy ways that folks can help out?
So the easiest thing for the public to do, and probably the most important for individual homeowners, is to really look around your property, and anything that can hold water for 7 days can potentially raise mosquitoes. And those things don't have to be large, but they're pretty easy to tip over or dispose of. So those things like 5-gallon buckets, an old tire that the sprinkler hits and is filling up with water, um, even clogged rain gutters, anything around your property that can hold water for 7 days. It's super important, to tip those things over, or if they're just old old containers, to dispose of them properly, so we can reduce the number of mosquitoes that are right around your property.
How long does it take for mosquitoes to breed in that standing water? Because you mentioned, the clogged gutters, the old tires. I mean, I'm thinking if somebody even has like a bird bath or something like that.
Correct. Anything like that. So really, a good rule of thumb is a week. So pretty much anything that can hold water for 7 days will produce or can produce mosquitoes. So if you do have something like a bird bath, for instance, that you can't tip over, if once a week you flush that water out on the ground, so any larvae that were in there dry up, then that's a good way to control the larvae in a situation like that.
Okay, what about like personally? Like what do we do to prevent mosquito bites? Because and it does seem to me that some folks are more susceptible to mosquito bites than other people. So what can folks do?
Correct. So a a good way we usually try to look at it is, really, you want to do the 3Ds. So the first was, drain those containers and things around your property. The second is dress in light colored, loose fitting clothing. So wearing long pants and long sleeve shirts, if you're out, especially at dawn and dusk, will reduce those mosquito bites. And the third is defend by properly applying insect repellent. So and you want to make sure you always read and follow the label on any insect repellent
Mm.
um,
What about a
label.
vaccine? Is there a vaccine for West Nile, or is it still just for certain animals?
So there's no human vaccine for West Nile virus. It's currently the only vaccines available are for horses. That horse vaccines also used in some cases for birds and zoos, etc. But it's um, really the only way that the public can protect themselves from mosquito bites is, um, one, having a mosquito abatement district such as ours that can control mosquito populations, and then taking it upon themselves to, you know, wear clothing that is makes it less likely for them to be bit, and then applying insect repellent.
Okay, so let's talk about mosquito seasons because I mean, unless I'm wrong, I only ever see them in the summertime. So there is just a time of year for mosquitoes, correct?
Correct. So really, everything starts in the spring, and then we'll end here in the fall. And it's important for us to remember we're really dealing with multiple species of mosquitoes that have different life cycles. So um, the mosquitoes that are most likely to bite you are the floodwater mosquitoes, which thankfully don't um, spread disease. But so those mosquitoes come on usually earlier
Hmm.
in the year, right when it floods. And then the Culex mosquitoes, which are more likely to transmit disease, they build throughout the summer. And then they usually peak around the 1st of September. And then we'll start, as we transition into fall, they'll start looking for places to rest and spend the winter.
So, I mean, we're getting to that time of the year where we should be seeing less and less mosquitoes. But with that said, everything that you just talked about today, like with the standing water, all of that, folks should keep doing for a while longer.
Absolutely. We probably will continue to see mosquitoes till around the 1st October. They should start reducing as the temperatures cool or we start having inclement weather. But you know, we're also to the time of year when it's more likely because they've lived so long that the mosquitoes could have picked up um West Nile virus. So we
Mm.
really, it's important for everyone to, even though it's starting to get cooler and to, continue to remain vigilant until um, really till we see that first frost every year.
Well, really good advice. Jim, thanks so much for joining us today. We've been talking with Jim Lunders. He is the director of the Canyon County Mosquito Abatement District, and we've been talking about fighting West Nile virus. You've been listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. I'm Gemma Gaudette.